Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Executive Table Talk. I'm JT O'Donnell, founder and CEO of Work It Daily, and the host of our show, which happens every Thursday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, where I'm lucky enough to have a group of amazing executives share their expertise, knowledge, and insights with you. And today is going to be an awesome one. We've been laughing it up backstage. I'm going to bring everybody right up to the screen because we've been having way too good a time. Hello, executives. How are you?
Hello there.
Good to see you all. All right. So we're talking about time hacks today. So where did the idea for this one come from? So I have been a coach for 20 years. And recently I've just been, as I've been talking to some people one-on-one, the first thing that's coming to mind is, boy, you're wasting a lot of time. And just listening to some of the things that they were doing. And so we thought, let's talk to executives who, one of the reasons that you're as successful as you are is that you're really good with your time, that you spot places where you can improve upon what you're doing, whether we want to call them time bottlenecks or time sucks, whatever you want to call it. It's important to do what I call the time audit and figure out where you can create some hacks for yourself. But once you figure that out, I think the question becomes, well, how do I hack the process? What can I do to be better? So I thought, what better way to coach our amazing listeners and followers than to have you all talk about your own work and, one or two of the hacks that you've created for yourself to be more productive. So with that in mind, I'm going to start with Percy, who is our newest addition to the live stream. Percy, you've been an executive member and an amazing contributor for a while, but it's the first time we've had you on camera. So thank you for being here. Can you tell everyone a little bit about your background and some of the time hacks you use?
Okay, so a little bit about my background is I work for 3PLs. I do a lot of content creation for them, also for different brands as well. So I kind of use YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, and so on for that. As far as what I do for myself and for other brands is I kind of first put up a schedule. So I start that usually on the weekends or whenever I'm free. I put together like what I'm going to shoot for the entire week or the entire month. And now I can use different programs for that. I can use Monday, I can use Canva, or I can use Notion. So I stick to that plan to schedule what I want and what I want to shoot for that plan. I kind of stay focused. Now, what I also do is I batch my content because batching content is really important. That way, I don't have to think about, okay, this is what I'm going to shoot tomorrow or the day afterwards. With batch content, I can either go to national days of, for example, and let's say my business is fashion, I could put national days related to fashion for the entire year. So I get a list of every single like day that's related to fashion. From January all the way to December, and I can create content from that as well. Or I've been using ChatGPT as well. So ChatGPT, you can put in whatever you want to talk about, whatever you want to discuss. Put that into ChatGPT, the hashtag, the date, what photo you want to use, and it'll give you exactly everything from what exact the date on a specific a date for your business related to hashtags, also your photo, what photo you're going to use. You can use either stock photos, or usually I use stock photos, but now I'm going to incorporate using my own into it because I'm going to be using my own personal brand to brand myself. Canva actually has an AI that a lot of people are not aware of too. You can do almost the same thing with Canva. You go into documents, type in like you want to brand your digital, like your marketing company there, and it'll give you up to like whatever you want, anywhere between 7 days to up to even 30 days on Canva itself. So that's how I batch my content. Next thing after that, I kind of limit, I turn off certain notifications because I'm really bad at like answering like text emails. Friends will call me. Sometimes I'll take a couple of breaks that'll help me like if I'm like working from like let's say for 2 or 3 hours straight, then sometimes taking breaks definitely helps. That's helps with my time hacks. And those are the things that I use to help me to get things done a lot faster. And obviously, when it comes to time hacks, you want to work on the most important things first, like that book from Brian Tracy, I believe, that you want to eat the frog first. So kind of work on the most important things first. And that helps me get through the day a lot faster and become much more productive.
Okay, so first of all, I love the themes here, which one is use technology.
Mm-hmm.
You listed some really key pieces of technology there that you've incorporated in that obviously are saving you a lot of time. Second thing I loved was where you talked about the batching. of content, which to me is, it's the batching of work process, right? So
Right.
why do a video, every single step of the video, and then do another one every single step of the video, when in reality you could be far more efficient if you're batching the parts of the work that you need to do. And I think that requires a lot of vision, a lot of planning, like you said. I think it also is important to hear from you that you look at the most important things first, because given all the moving parts and how easily you can get distracted in your field, it takes a lot of concentration. Being able to commit to say these are the most important things and getting those done first, I think is huge, which leads into your part about the no distractions, turning off the phone or doing whatever you can, saying, look, I'm blocking this time off. I'm only going to do this work. But it's still, Percy, I hear a lot of self-discipline there. And I think, would you agree that in your line of work, if you don't have that self-discipline, it could just get away from you? I mean, if
Yeah.
you're super creative, you're not going to be able to do it. You're both, which I think is rare. Do you see what I'm saying? You need to be creative in video, but you really need to have that ability, that vision, that accountability in order to do it, that I don't think a lot of creatives have.
It just takes it takes some practice to do that. Once you do those steps, and you use technology like either Canva, then yeah, you could definitely do that. It's all about just planning, maybe a couple days before, what you want to say to and promote your personal brand.
It's amazing. I mean, the amount of scale that you do is pretty phenomenal. Hopefully that helps, folks. Hopefully you're hearing those themes. You got to organize yourself if you want to get it done. All right, moving down to Catherine. Catherine, tell everybody about your background and some of the time hacks you're using these days.
I'm so grateful and thankful for all the opportunities I've had in the music industry. I've had the pleasure of working for Electronic Arts in the gaming vertical, as well as Warner Music Group, and most recently Atlantic Records in the hip hop genre. And I don't take that lightly. It's a very tough industry to really break into, or can be challenging at times. So I've had about a 12, 13-year run in the business, and I started in Atlanta. And I learned really early on that to move very strategically in that space. That's why I can really love what Percy was talking about with ChatGPT. That's so cool. I can't wait to hear more about that. But to really look at each of the jobs that you're in, or the professions that you're in, and for me, it's music, and really be strategic about how you move within the space. And for me, the industry can be challenging because people have different agendas or different intentions. It's a very small circle, and you just have to be very careful. And especially as a woman in the industry, in studios, in production, working with producers, in clubs all the time, it's vital that we really pay attention to how we're moving and how we're operating as business executives. So to that point, I've adopted my own strategy that's really personal to me. And I feel very strongly about serving others. And the way that I do that is I've created a management style where I have a very kind, caring, and thoughtful approach to working with people. In general, and recently, I work with a lot of Gen Z and millennials, and I want to make sure that all of the teams that I engage with, whether it's janitorial staff, housekeeping, a marquee artist, digital producers, engineers that are mastering music, I want them to know that they matter. So that's really a personal credo to me. And it's just important. And you'll find in music that, big touring artists like to tour with their friends. Their direct support is typically really good friends of theirs. That's usually how it goes in the business. And you don't gain that trust overnight. It's a long process. And sometimes you're vetting people. Sometimes you're just trying to see if they're in it for a quick money grab. And those particular items in my industry have helped me to really develop my style. And part of that is serving. So I enjoy serving my colleagues. I enjoy serving artists. And I particularly am passionate about independent music artists. So I kind of took a time hack from Nick Cannon, who is super successful in the space. And he put together a to-do list of like 15, 20 items a day. And he always does a favor at the end of that list. So if he has 14 items, his 15th item is doing a favor for someone. And that really resonated with me. So the way that I converted that into my daily work schedule is that I do receive a lot of inquiries by email or LinkedIn to meet with students, new artists, management teams, and major labels to either chat about the industry, chat about the legal trends that are happening in the industry, talk about how to drive revenue and reduce risk. And so those are things that I really enjoy sharing all this time that I've been in the industry, because there have been so many people ahead of me who have kicked down the door for me, particularly women. And I want to honor that. So the way I manage it is I have a time period on Fridays from noon to 2 p.m. And I do half-hour segments, and I book this out like 3 or 4 months. And if I get an inquiry, you can always get to me, and you can always come into my circle and into my space, and I will always respond. And usually it's a quick form letter with my Google Calendar, and then I'll lock in 30-minute segments on Fridays. And it's funny, JT, because you think I'm serving other people by sharing information or connecting people, but at the end of the day, it really serves me. It's 9 times out of 10, it's Gen Z or millennials that want to chat and want to get into the industry. And while I'm talking to them, I'm doing a little bit of market research. Where are you getting your music? What genres do you like? What are you hearing? How do you find your music? So it feeds me as much as it feeds the person I'm talking to. But this is a really important part of my business model. And I feel super, strongly about it, that we try to serve everyone that's come before us and make sure that we kind of pay it forward. So that's my time hack.
I love it because, to your point, serving is part of your style. It's part of what you've described, but it can really get away from you. I mean, we all want to help people, but we also have to run our businesses, pay our bills, do other things in our life. So the fact that you figured out a really great systematic way to serve that audience and be consistent is wonderful. If they know there's going to be a Friday that they're going to be able to talk to you, it might not be this Friday or the Friday after that, but there's some Friday in the future. I'm sure you get a lot of people keeping those appointments with you, which is wonderful. And also the networking factor. What an efficient way to network.
100%.
For people listening today, even if you were to just say there's this time slot of my week is my dedicated networking time, it goes back to what Percy was saying, which is about batching what you do. One of the best things we can do for time hacks is if there's something we have to do repeatedly in our lives, week over week, month over month, if there's a way to batch that together, you're going to be more efficient instead of restarting it over every time you need to do it. So I love how that sets up for you. And I love that you recognize and embrace the fact that it's serving you as much as it's serving them. I think that's really the beautiful part about serving your network is that, the more we give, the more we get in that space. But you're doing it so efficiently, I love it. Love it. All right, Mark, we're coming on over to you. Let's talk a little bit about your background, your work, and the time hacks that you use.
Yeah. So background wise, I worked in risk management in an investment bank, a couple of investment banks in London and then New York. And then I kind of parlayed that work into helping build out the risk management function at a smaller regional bank over here in New Jersey. And then again, from risk management went into the IT department, kind of a senior leader at the IT department, and then within a kind of marketing kind of product role, again within the smaller bank. So look, I guess there's any number of kind of rules of thumb that I picked up along the way. Not least, there's always too much work to do.
Yeah.
And how do you self-prioritize? So just as a general point, one of the things that I picked up at the larger banks was, regardless of what you've got on your to-do list, if you get a request from the regulator for something, you drop everything and you do that. If you get a request from audit, you maybe wait 15 minutes, then drop everything and do that. So this is just general points. But one of the things that I realized, I guess, after a number of years of experience, and again, it was something that we got an example when I was at the smaller bank. So this idea of self-prioritization, but with a twist. And the twist is actually working out what I call the axis of power is. So, for instance, I had to. There were a number of projects, let's say, that were languishing, and they were given to me because I just had a background in picking things up and getting things done. And to make sure things were getting done, there was a status update meeting to the CEO every Monday afternoon. So yeah, a good percentage of my time over the week would be recognizing that I've got this meeting on Monday afternoon. It's something that we talked about last week in terms of difficult customers. So I knew that I would have to communicate a story to the CEO, and the CEO would have certain expectations, right? So those expectations were, is everybody kind of pulling their weight on this? Those things that we said we were going to do, have we actually done them? If we haven't done them, then, you know, what are we doing about that? So I would spend a lot of my time during the week actually knitting that story together, right? So the meeting would be on a Monday afternoon. So I would spend a little bit of time on the Tuesday, kind of working out what the current lie of the land is, a little bit more time on a Wednesday. But by the time Thursday and Friday came around, I would spend maybe half my day making sure I knew what the status was on everything. If we weren't meeting the date, what the reason was, what we were doing about it. And again, just trying to knit that story together. Mm-hmm. And again, the whole idea of that is, you know, this idea of axis of power, right? So if I give a really good update to the CEO, he looks at me at the end of it, looks me in the eye and think, you know, Mark's got this. Well, I actually live to fight another week. And part of that as well is if somebody else lower down in the power hierarchy at the bank thinks I'm not doing a good job, well, the CEO thinks I'm doing a good job this week. So I live to fight another day. So that's kind of how I would you know, prioritize what I had to do. My analogy, JT, was always it's you know, you identify these axes of power. They might not be where you expect them to be, but they are there. Yeah. They might not be what you want them to be, right? You might think that well, what they think is important, I don't think is important, but however, they are probably more senior than you. So again, the analogy I used to use to the, you know, people that would work with me, it's like whitewater rafting in the Colorado River, yeah. Right? If you choose to go against the flow, you can paddle as hard as you want, but you're going to tire yourself out in 5 minutes, right? Just go with the flow. And you're going to spend all of your energy actually making sure that you stay in the boat. And there's a follow-up piece to that as well, is you might actually enjoy, right? Whitewater rafting, staying in the boat and just kind of going with the flow. So that's kind of how I try and do things.
I love it. And you've, you know, historically been in very, what I would call intense environments, right? Heavily deadlift driven, heavily results driven, kind of like fighter pilot mode, if that makes sense. So I think in those environments, you really need your time hacks, or you just not, like you said, you're not going to live to see another day in that environment for sure, which I love. So you're pretty comfortable with it. I will say, and I will add in for me, one of the most valuable things I was ever taught was from a business advisor, and you've probably all heard this. He would say, you know, JT, you're running a company, you're doing everything. How do you choose what you do? And how do you choose what you should delegate? And what goes into what they call plan neglect. And this was an eye-opener to me. So delegate, he said, is something that's a critical. Write down all the things that you do and then rank them in importance, right? So they cannot be equal. You have to rank everything top to bottom. So I would list everything that I was responsible for, everything that needed to be done. And then I would rank them in importance. And he would say, okay, so what can you reasonably handle of the top most important stuff? And he said, the way you know it's time to move down is when you figure out what your hourly rate is. So he would say, put a number on your time. What do you think you're worth per hour if you were going to go out and sell yourself? He said, any of these jobs after your critical stuff that could be done by somebody else for less than your hourly rate is something that you should be delegating.
That's good.
And I thought, oh my gosh, he's right. He said, and then he said, go further down the list. And if there's stuff that could be delegated for a lower price point, but it's not do or die. It's not must do. He said, that's plan neglect. That's the one that you recognize it needs to be done, but it doesn't have to be done right this second. Doesn't have to be done this week or this month. So keep a place for it on the list, but put it in the plan neglect column, meaning you're actively aware that it's there, but it didn't fit these first two criteria, which was criteria 1, it's you have to do it. Nobody else can do it. Criteria 2 it makes financial sense to delegate it. And once I started adopting that model and I started teaching my staff how to do that, first of all, it took the pressure off everyone because we'd stop thinking that we actually had to do everything. We had to do everything. You said that, Mark. You were like, there's always more work to do. So I made it clear to them, there's always going to be a list of planned neglect because stuff's going to come off it and new stuff's going to come on it. Right. But it's there and we know it. And when it starts to feel critical, it's going to move to that next level. And that's when we're going to decide, does JT do it or does somebody else do it? Do we, where do we delegate that to? And as people started to figure that out on my team, everyone got more productive, especially with us where, we're a 35-hour work week to begin with, right? We're a 7-hour work day. So we're already starting to compress it down. You're not going to be able to do everything. And I will say, this has just been a game changer. Mentally, it's helped everyone feel accomplished and successful in their jobs. We're all on the same page communication-wise about what can be done and what didn't get done, right? There's no surprises because we've all made it really clear. And that's probably been the single biggest time hack for me in the business. And our business, when we went to, when I started getting this business coaching was back in 2017. And when we did that, and then we moved to a 35-hour work week in 2018, our business doubled.
Wow.
Doubled.
Mm-hmm.
So took 5 hours a week off everybody's work schedule, right?
Wow.
And got really focused on this idea of planned neglect, and our revenues doubled. That's crazy. So I know there's other people that have stories like that, but I wanted to share that story today because it's all about working smarter, not harder. We've heard that silly phrase for so many years. But do you really pay attention to it? Every single person on this call today can do a time audit, can look at that and apply the technique we're talking about today, any number of these techniques, and just figure out how to not only be more efficient, but also give yourself more time. That's the whole reason we're talking about this, so that you're not working 10, 12 hours a day, right? And you have a life. Because I just keep hearing so many complaints about that lately. Post-pandemic, people are like, I don't want to live to work. I want to work to live. I don't disagree. I think we all want to work to live. But it means you've got to figure out your time hacks to do that. You've got to figure out how to be more efficient. So it was great. I loved all that. All right. So I want to go around. We've got a little time left. I want to go around and ask each one of you, what one piece of technology could you not live without when it comes to saving you time? Percy, you mentioned a bunch of different technologies, but what's the one, if they were taking everything away except one, which one would you have to keep?
Probably Canva. You can do so much with Canva. You can edit with Canva. You can shoot your video using your phone with Canva, and you can go back into Canva and you can change the format for YouTube Shorts, for TikTok, for Snapchat, for everything. Plus now they have an AI device, just like ChatGPT, where you can do an entire schedule of what you want to shoot or what you want to do for the entire month. It's pretty awesome.
It's so funny you say that because mine's TikTok. I know that's awful, but because of the production value, because of how much I can do in there, cut, edit, do different stuff. In reality, I know I should upgrade my life. I will save even more time if I do Canva. So you are reminding me that I need to move my efforts to Canva because of all of the things that I can do there. So you're convincing me with that one. I like it.
It's good.
Catherine, what about you? We're taking every technology away. Which one are you keeping?
Well, two things. I've become this new user in a different way on Facebook, which I know is a very, I know our platforms go in and out and they vibe in and out. And some generations are definitely not into Facebook, but I still admire how much technology he has put in that on my phone in regard to story. He's added stories. I can post, I can do reels. I mean, he has really turned it into a super cool place. And I like that it meets a different demographic. Okay. So I like it. Not many people do, but I'm into Facebook. And the second one is Visco, the app, Visco for filter and so forth. That's one of my faves. So yeah.
My kids use Visco. You are so hip. All right. Catherine is I'm just going to call it our most hip executive. Not even kidding. We're in the hip hop industry. It's so freaking cool. Every time I see you post on LinkedIn, I'm like, oh, she's so with it.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you.
I love it. I love it. Mark, what about you? What one piece of tech are you keeping?
Honestly, JT, keep my brain.
Oh my gosh. I thought you were going to say like Google spreadsheets.
No, well, maybe a spreadsheet. Look, here's while you were, talking and your experience, this is what popped into my head. So I can remember, Getting Things Done by David Allen. I remember reading that in like 2005 when I thought I was busy. And the whole idea is you either do things or you delegate or you defer or you just delete them, right? And the whole idea is you write everything that's in your head, everything, and you write it down. And I had like a list of 120 things, whatever it was. And then I tried really, really hard deleting all those things and deferring all those things that I thought weren't important. And I had a list of maybe 25 things that I thought were important. And then fast forward maybe 12, 13, 14, 15 years. And I was like, I got 3 things I've got to get done. I don't get these 3 things done, they're going to kick me out. Everything else, let it go. So again, I think it's maybe not even the brain, it's maybe the heart to look through what you've got and get rid of it and see what you can get away with. And again, maybe there's a little bit of courage in that as well, right? Sometimes, hey, you get your fingers burnt. What I thought wasn't important, actually somebody else did, but you live and learn. I think that's how you get calibrated. But honestly, if I'd listed everything out that was kind of on my plate, it would have been hundreds of things. And yet there were 3 things that kept me awake. And I just focused on those. And again, I was willing to kind of get my fingers burnt if there was a 4th or a 5th out there. If there was a 6th or a 7th or an 8th, then I was, I was on the way out. But again, I kind of kept my nose above water most weeks. So we were good.
It's so good though, because if you are communicating with them and saying, look, this is what I can reasonably get done. I can get it done and I can get it done well. Right? If you're all on the same page, it's telling them either I'm really not the right person for the job. If you honestly think there's somebody there that can do all 8 of these things in that time frame, I'm not the right person. So let's own that. Or maybe this is my way of showing you've got the wrong expectations about what can be done in a reasonable amount of time. And I think that's another thing that I want our audience to hear. We have a large audience here on LinkedIn who I think struggles to talk to management about, I'm feeling overworked, I'm feeling stressed out, there's too much on my plate. Well, one of the ways you get things off your plate is you have a conversation with them about how big the plate is. And when it's, when there's stuff falling over it, like you've got to go have that conversation and figure out those priorities and what are they willing to accept. I
did it slightly differently, JT, after a while. And again, it's not something that I learned, day one. It was like, I'm going to get overwhelmed here. So I'm going to decide what's not on the list. And I got to say this, if anybody wants to try it, if you've got a list of, write down everything, you've got 100 things, get it down to 3. It's the most cathartic thing you can do. You suddenly feel in control. And again, I would take pretty much everything off the list. But you remember like one of our other talks where I'm going to change my office so I'm closer to the axis of power, right? And then I'll make out I'm going to get a cup of coffee and I'll put my head around the corner and say, hey, how's it going today? And then I suddenly find out that, hey, one of those things that I knocked off my list, apparently is really important. So I should put it on, but I'll take one of those things that I thought was important. I'll take that off the list. Like I said, I used to treat it like a game. Again, a game you could kind of get your fingers burnt a little bit, but I found it cathartic. And I also felt as if, it kind of felt as if I was, in control or had more control than just being a hostage to somebody else's fortune. So
well, and that's a mindset. And I hope that's a mindset that everyone's taking away from today with these 3 fabulous executives. You have more control than you think. And it starts with you. You really do. So I just want to give a shout out, everyone. Go follow these people on LinkedIn and other platforms right now. Percy has an amazing background in video production, YouTube, an unbelievable YouTube channel. Also, just want to talk about that, and a massive amount of following and views. So if you're looking for a true YouTube video expert, please go follow him, ask him to connect. Catherine, you heard about it, background in the music industry. I mean, first of all, legal background, right? Turn music industry executive, super cool story. And Mar coming from that like fighter pilot finance background and then moving into IT operations. All of these people have been masters of evolving their careers and building up their executive presence. So please go find and follow them on LinkedIn. Tell them, by the way, customize your connection request. What do I always tell you? And tell them that you saw them on ETT, Executive Table Talk, so they know to connect with you, okay? Awesome. This was another great session. Thank you so much, everyone. Please, in the comments, share your favorite time hack that you learned today, your favorite tip. We always love to see that. And until next time, remember, if you want to win, you got to work it daily. Okay, crew? All right. See you later, folks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.